Happy Friday, guys, and welcome in here to WagerTalk TV. First show of the day here on the channel. This is PuckTime. I'm Andrew. I've got Carmine with me. The two of us here today to break down not just one game, but two games on Saturday. So 3 games in total. Best bets, of course, at the end, and the 6 and 60 segment at the end of the show as well. Coyotes and Hurricanes is the game we'll discuss tonight. And then we have an afternoon game with the Bruins and Kings we'll break down, as well as the Battle of Florida with the Panthers taking on the Lightning. So still lots to go over here on the show. Happy to have all of you guys with us, and we'll try and find some winners on the board. Of course, Carm, we've got that game tonight, but I think we can agree that the 2 games we have to talk about for Saturday are a little bit more exciting and a little bit bigger of gains, but nonetheless, here we are to break down Carolina and Arizona. I almost said Phoenix, but how are things today, Carm?
Phoenix, oh man, yeah, that would have been a faux pas, but things are good, man. Yesterday, some crazy games yesterday. The no scoring, and then they started scoring in the bucketfuls and stuff. I had a couple totals yesterday. The Colorado one went over against Tampa. Once it gets to 3-3, I don't care who wins at that point, right? But my God, I had the Ottawa one, Andrew, and if you told me um, before I put my bet in, hey, Anaheim's going to score 5 goals tonight, I probably would have sold my left nut and bet a little extra on the over. There's no way of looking at it. If you tell me in Ottawa, where Ottawa is on a streak and scoring goals, that Anaheim's going to come in and score 5 goals on them after they allowed 5 in each of their previous games, like Ottawa completely non-existent in that game. In the first period, they didn't even look like they were there. But they didn't look like they were there the whole game. The game finishes 5-1. They give them 2 power plays at the end, and they still couldn't get a second goal. So 2-2 day for me. Drop a couple units though. But I'm looking forward to this weekend. There's some really good games, and even this one, it's by no means is this one a dud. Within every game that looks like a dud, I think you can always find a play, Andrew.
Karma, I didn't know that the Prez was on with us today. I don't want to ask you what your left nut would be worth, but yeah, I'm with you. Anaheim, look, Anaheim was off that
Not
blowout
much.
loss against Montreal, right? And that's the thing. They looked really pissed off out there against Ottawa, but bad performance there. The Kings, of course, I knew after having a 5% play on them on Tuesday, I knew for sure they were going to find a way to win. I was happy to get the under. I mentioned the under on the show yesterday. On that one, I couldn't bet the side. The under came through. There were some good games yesterday, some upsets as well, but I think we're starting to see, Carm, overall, unless there's like some bad situational spots, we're starting to see more defensive hockey. We really are. And you know, these playoff spots, even though we're still a few months out, obviously, and the trade deadline's coming up, we really are starting to see teams tighten things up defensively, and seeing some of these games go under the total. I wouldn't be shocked to start seeing more 6s and fewer 6.5s as we, approach the trade deadline and the playoff hunt continues for some of these teams. And speaking of defense here, we've got the Coyotes and Hurricanes going head to head. Total at 6 now in this one, shaded towards the over, minus 205 favorites I'm seeing for the Hurricanes. And well, this Coyotes team, they need some defense, Carm, because scoring has dried up. At one point, they were on the brink of a playoff spot. They were even in a playoff spot at one point. But it's been a 7-game losing streak for this team. What are your thoughts on this one here?
This is, and I will say, this is actually one of my my only client play up at WagerTalk. So no sense in, if you see play up for purchase, no sense to buy. You should get the 3-day all access anyways. But Carolina is the only play here, Andrew. Like, this is a team, they've had a good run of it of late. They're playing some very good hockey. They're getting near the top of the Metro, chasing down the Rangers. They were a little closer, but the Rangers sprung together some wins. But they come off a loss in Dallas, 4-2 loss in Dallas. So it's respectable because Dallas is, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm feeling better about my preseason prediction, Dallas is looking like the best team in the league right now. They are winning goals. They're playing better than anybody is in the league right now, I believe. And they lose that game 4-2. But on the season, and Carolina had a bad start to the season, guys. They strung. There was a bunch. There was uh, 2 or 3 times I think where they lost 3 or 4 games in a row. But they're 14-7 coming off a loss. Last 5 games in which they've had a loss, they followed that up with a win and a win in regulation, and that's where I'm leaning here. I just think you mentioned about Arizona; they haven't looked good, Andrew, in any of these last 7 games. Goaltending issues is obviously a concern. When Ingram's in there, Ingram can steal the game, but he got injured, and they had to bring in Vamelka in the last one against the Minnesota Wild. So it's going to be Mavelka in goal tonight, and what's his save percentage? I think it's like 897, 363 or 336 goals against average. He's not your number one goalie. I think Ingram is at this point, but he's now got to go back to back essentially for himself in starts of Imelka, that is. So I'm taking Carolina, but I don't want to lay the 200. I think they get it done in 60 minutes. They've got a big road trip ahead, so I don't think they want to start it off after losing in Dallas with consecutive losses. So give me Carolina minus 140 in regulation.
And Carmine, I think this is a really good game to use the regulation. Overall, I think you're getting a really good price. You're getting it down from that minus 200 mark there, and against a Arizona team that hasn't really gone to overtime too many times as of late. So I wouldn't be too worried about the overtime factor. Looking at that regulation play for the Hurricanes, you know, out of the top, I mentioned how important defense is for this Arizona team. You take a look at some of the games they've played recently, though, giving up 5 to Philly, 5 to Nashville, 6 to Tampa Bay. And the fact of the matter is, when they play strong teams right now, they haven't been able to shut things down. So as much as I say defense should be, you know, a concern for them, it should be something they're putting a huge, you know, emphasis on. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to get that out of a Carolina Hurricanes team. Carolina plays very fast hockey. They've got 3 lines that score and contribute, defensemen that jump into the rush constantly. And you look at some of the matchups that Carolina have dealt with recently compared to Arizona, as you were talking about there. We've got Dallas, New Jersey, Colorado, and Vancouver. You know, and then, of course, before that was their matchup against Arizona, where they won 3-1. So this is a team that, you know, in those tough games went 2-2, but against really tough all playoff teams, all teams that we could say potentially, besides maybe New Jersey, could be contenders at the end of the year when all's said and done. So when it comes down to it, the last one was a low-scoring 3-1 victory in favor of Carolina. We're getting a 6, not the 6.5. We're getting Vamelka, not Connor Ingram. Karma, I'm going to go with the over 6 here. We've seen a lot of these games when Arizona plays Eastern Conference teams go up and over the total. And I know Marco mentions these, and some people say this doesn't matter, but I figured I might as well mention this too. 5 of the last 7 games at home on a Friday have gone over the total. So when you find these funny I almost said Timbits, Carb. When you find these tidbits, they're certainly worth mentioning. Hopefully our Canadian viewers can at least get a laugh at me almost saying Timbits, but those tidbits sometimes are worth mentioning, right? On Friday, the game seemed to go over a lot more with Arizona. Who knows why? But overall, I expect some goals in this game.
Yeah, Andrew, defense hasn't been the greatest thing for Arizona over this 7-game losing streak of theirs. I think they've allowed 31 goals, which pretty much equates, I think, is like that's what 4.34 or something like that goals per game. Not a good stat for a team that is now going to their backup goalie again tonight. So we've seen Arizona string some wins together, but when they lose, as I think evident, wasn't it last year where they lost, I think, their first 13 or 14 out of the gate? It was either last year or the year prior. So it's funny, man. You mentioned Timbits. You're making me hungry. I actually killed a bag. Look at this. I feel bad even holding these up. Look at this. Mini donuts from Hostess. Cinnamon mini powdered donuts, Andrew. I killed a whole bag. They're no fat, eh? No fat in these ones. The cinnamon gets rid of it. But
It's what they tell you anyway. It's what they tell you.
5-2. How's 5-2 sound tonight? 5-2. for Carolina, gets you your over, gets me my Carolina in regulation. And then we can even look at the Prez loves to throw out those what are they called? The exact scores. 5-2 for Carolina tonight, boys, is paying 16-1 plus 1,600.
Sounds good. Look, I mean, obviously, I want Carolina to win. I want you to win your wager. The only thing is with this, Carm, is that, as you know, unless it's 7-0 for Carolina, I need something out of Arizona. So at least 2 goals to help me with the over here. But hopefully it's a messy game. Hopefully at ASU tonight, because they don't have an arena yet. It's a goal-filled night between those two teams. I got to shout out my friend Rowan. He was on the brothers trip with the Coyotes, Carm. So me and you and Dave Koken are always talking about the dad trips and the mom's trip. Well, my friend, he got to be a part of the brothers trip as his brother plays on the Coyotes. Man, it looked like an absolute good time. He was like featured all over like Barstool's Instagram, the Arizona Coyotes social, having drinks in the skyboxes, going on the team private jet. So I got to say, these teams, they do it well. Whether it's the mom's trips, the dad's trips, the brothers trips, like they really make their family feel included. So I thought it looked super cool. I was jealous. My friend was flying around on a private jet for a couple of days, got to go see a couple great games. And unfortunately, though, he got to watch his brother's team lose every game he went to see. But let's keep things going here, Carm, with the Boston Bruins and LA Kings here. Wonky schedule for this Kings team, man. It doesn't get much easier for them. And as far as body clock is concerned, maybe they're used to the East Coast time by now, but maybe they're not. And at this point, they're playing an early afternoon game at TD Garden, which would be, middle of the morning in Los Angeles. How do you think that impacts this game tomorrow?
Yeah, there's I was just looking at it. There's like 7 early games tomorrow. So with even the Tampa Florida one that we're going to discuss goes at 5 o'clock. So an early sked of games, you don't want to miss them because they're not flooding your evenings with games. Andrew, I think a couple of people in the chat thought I was nuts yesterday taking the LA Kings against the Devils, just the way the Kings have been playing. But good defensive teams, when they return to playing defense, can find some wins. And you look at that one yesterday, and the Kings absolutely clogged up. I thought it was old school hockey. They clogged up the neutral zone. They played like a 1-3-1 type of thing, which is almost going back to the old New Jersey Devils neutral zone trap games. They literally slowed down New Jersey through the neutral zone. Guys like Jack Hughes, they got under Jack Hughes' skin as well too. And we saw that through the game as well too. And they played a perfect defensive game, and they ended up with a 2-1 victory, which I'm pretty happy about because I had the Kings in that one. And now you look at it, they're playing the Bruins, who have lost 4 of the last 5. The Bruins, 4 of the last 5. We always keep waiting for their regression to kick in. It looks like it's kicked in. Now, the total of this one is going to come out at 5.5. I can't see it coming out at a 6. It's likely to be one of those ones where it's 5.5 over 25, 20 or 25 cents juice. And I think the under is the right play. You have the Bruins struggling right now. Losers of 4 of their last 5. They've only scored 4 goals in those 4 losses that they've had. And if the Kings double up on playing the same type of defense that they played against the New Jersey Devils, this is going to be a low-scoring game. You figure it's one of those grind them out, could be 2-2, go to OT and finishes 3-2, and you cash your ticket. Even with your money, Andrew, I would not bet the over in this game, regardless of whether it comes in or not. The under is the only play in this game tomorrow.
I'm with you there. And Carm, I didn't think you were crazy at all yesterday for that. It was an LA Kings spot, but I just was being completely honest with the audience and saying, as someone that lost a big bet on them the other day, I had to go with the total. and I like the way it turned out. 2-1 for the LA Kings against the Devils. You and I were both happy. But one thing I've noticed about these afternoon games at the Garden, and I was kind of joking about when I mentioned the streak for Arizona on Fridays and things like that. But one thing I'm not joking about is unders in the afternoon. 4 Bruins games. It's been a long time coming now. Many, 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 many years. You talk to any Boston Bruins fan, any local in Massachusetts will tell you that these games are not the most exciting when Boston plays an early start game. It's just how it's always gone. And now you have an LA Kings team, again, that's still struggling on offense. And I can't stress it enough. Even though this team won yesterday, it was a nice feeling for me to kind of have that handicap right and realize they're struggling offensively so much, Carm, that they have to play in low-scoring games right now. Until they see an offensive outburst, then we can't be looking at anything else but low-scoring games for them from now on. And Boston right now, obviously, they got shut out. They lost the following one. They come out yesterday, and the Kraken come out on top against them. So they're going to be frustrated as well. There's no denying it. But again, I think a frustrated Boston is a little bit similar to the frustrated LA Kings team we saw yesterday. And that is a team that needs to play strong defensively. So we're on the same page, man. We're both looking towards the under. I would potentially be looking at some Brad Marchand shots on goal props. Because I think that, when you're struggling to score, you need your big guys to be your big guys. And I think that he will go out there and shoot quite a bit. Certainly worth looking at. As far as props on the side of the LA Kings, Trevor Moore is someone that we have to look at again. If they're going to get going, Trevor Moore is going to be a huge part of it. But yeah, Carm, I've noticed this for years at TD Guard in the early games, and I'll make it very clear. I like the under, whether the game was played at 10 p.m. or played at 1 p.m. But the fact that it is an early start does even help my handicap much more. I've seen that over the years. These early start games continue to go under.
Yeah, no, listen, I have to agree with you. The one thing that I always find somewhat amusing is some people's narratives on West Coast teams when they're on the second or third game in the East Coast, and they're like, well, the Edmonton Oilers are playing Dallas at 3:00. That's early for them. Or the Vegas Golden Knights are in New Jersey and it's a 12:30 game. It's really like 9:30 for the players. Players adjust to times because they're in peak physical condition. Not NFL players, but hockey players. Andrew, and those, I don't think the early start times, unless it's the very first games after travel. Once these guys are there, they're acclimated. And those early start times, I don't think bug them as much. But I do get what you say about we'll see teams, and they can be East Coast teams very easily. Those 12:30 games that come out a little sluggish. The defense is ahead of the offense, and by the time the offense gets going, the game is squarely heading to an under. We don't see a ton of goals. It's very rarely you see that pep that early in the morning. So this night, I wish this number was 6, even juice to the under. I would take it because we always talk about there's a lot of ways to get to 6, which is why that over 5.5. I think this season the 5.5s are like 40. Ralph Michaels gave us something the other week. There were 10 games above 500 if you're flat betting over 5.5s, but you're down 2 units because of the vig that you have to pay on that. So. This is why VIG, Andrew, we talk about all the time. That's why the VIG is really important in these ones. If you can save 10 or 15 cents on a number long term, it turns what's a profitable or a not profitable situation into a profitable one. Imagine going 10 games over and you don't make any money on that, but that's how it is.
That's really interesting because you're right. I mean, because a lot of times you see the 5.5, so you're getting minus 120, 125, even worse than that. And obviously, on the flip side of things, we'll say if anybody does like the over in this game, I would strongly recommend waiting 10 minutes into the first period. Wait, see if you can get a better number, to see if things will change. Let's cross over to our last game. We'll break down, Carm, then we'll jump into the 6 and 60 segment. The Battle of the Sunshine State here. The Panthers against the Lightning in this one. Both teams playing some pretty good hockey right now. No denying that. One team 8-2 last 10. One team 6-2 last 8. Both teams having some pretty good runs right now. Which team are you the most interested in getting behind?
Right now, Andrew, probably Florida in this spot. They're the slight favorites. So these are the openers, guys, and because DK doesn't have their numbers out, so you won't find them on our WagerTalk consensus lines. But these are the Bet Rivers numbers, and they're pretty accurate to what the opening lines will be. Andrew, you look at Florida. How can you not like Florida, especially on the road? And I get this; they're back in the state of Florida, but it's essentially a road game. They have won 10 straight on the road. Their last defeat on the road was 3-1 to the Calgary Flames. 10 straight wins for this team, and it's not like they've been easy ones. They've gone into Vegas and beat the Golden Knights. They went into Colorado, beat them 8-4 against the St. Louis, who's playing extremely well right now. Knocked off the Oilers. Nashville, the Penguins, the Islanders. So they are beating teams on the road and doing it, defense first, but the offense is clicking, man. It's tough to want to get in front of a Florida team. I get these two are rivals right now, but Florida is making a push for that to win the Atlantic and to that top spot in the Eastern Conference. They're just playing phenomenal hockey right now. Minus 115, I get it. They're favored in Tampa, but it's essentially a pick 'em at this number and could be by game day. So give me Florida at the low price.
Karma's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, I think, tomorrow for the both of us, because we're going to be on the same page a lot. I look forward to messaging you, sweating out these bets, because we're on the same page with these. And I think the fact is Tampa Bay is playing better hockey right now. They've looked like a better hockey team over the last week or week and a half, going back obviously to before the All-Star break. But what nobody can deny is what this Florida Panthers team is doing defensively. It is absolutely rare to see them give up even more than 3 goals, and 2 goals is pretty much the common theme for them, if not even lower, shutting out Buffalo, 5-2 win over Pitt, 4-0 over Colorado, allowing just 2 goals to Washington. It's just so impressive to see how they play hockey. And you talked about it. I got to give you credit all the way dating back to last year around this time with Paul Maurice and some of the other coaching staff stuff they dealt with. They had to slow things down. They won the President's Trophy a couple years ago, but the way they were playing was not benefiting them. Now they're really slowing things down. They play tight hockey, and once they get a few goals, they're satisfied. You ever notice how they don't really score like 6 or 7 goals in games ever? They get to 4 or 5, and they just lock things down completely. So I'm going to look towards the road team in this one. Tampa Bay, coming off that win yesterday against Colorado. It was 6-3, but realistically, I think there were like 2 late ones. We'll call it 4-3, honestly. But that was a real tight battle for them in their first game back at home. They're going to run into a really good defensive and rested Florida team. I'm with you, man. I'll rock with the road team here. And I it's hard to go towards the under in this one again, Carmen. It really is. But at the same time, Tampa Bay has been involved in some exciting games recently, so I might just stay off the total and rock with the side here. Should be a good one, though. Should be a good one. It's funny, the game we talked about today is probably the worst one that we've spoken about, but people have to wait till tomorrow to watch the other ones.
Yeah, we wanted to give you a show today, guys, so we tossed in a couple extra games. Andrew and I think, are going to do a Saturday version of Puck Time a little later on. We'll record it and hopefully get it onto the platform, and of course the 6 and 60. But Andrew, the thing is, when I'm watching some of these games, and you always have like the hometown announcers. If you have the NHL Ice package, it's the hometown announcers, and sometimes they can say stuff that is just you're like, oh, this is so stupid or whatever. I've said that about some of the stuff I say on the show, but the one thing they said about this Florida team, which in their last game, or the game against Pittsburgh, which I thought, actually did make sense, because if you look at them, this is what they do: is Florida comes out and plays a style where they're like, we're going to try and grind you into the ground. We're going to play defense. But if you want to get into a high scoring game, we can also do that. And they beat the Penguins that game 5-2. So, with that said, this team is finding different ways to win, but they normally win with defense. So it's tough. They're a playoff team playing in the regular season right now. This is how they played in the playoffs last season. making it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they're doing it again this season. So it wouldn't surprise me if this team finishes first in the East.
Is it fair to say, Carm, if anybody wants to get their futures in on this Panthers team, that you might as well do it sooner than later? At this point, you're not going to get a better number. You might as well jump in now, even though they're one of the favorites. You're probably not going to get a better number in the future than you are right now, right?
No, I don't think you are. And Andrew. With that said, after I do the 6 and 60, we're going to talk about one cell team. You and I talked about it just before the show, and this is again talking about the futures, because if you have an opinion on how this team is going to do as far as the season goes, to make the playoffs, to miss the playoffs, and such. You want to get in on that team now before that schedule comes into play. So,
absolutely, yeah. Forecasting the schedules coming up for sure, guys. $10 a day. That's what you will pay for a rest of February special. That expires very soon, so make sure you take advantage of that. It's going to be a good one for all kinds of sports. We've got college baseball actually starting here. MLB starting before you know it, but we've got, of course, college hoops, NHL, NBA when it returns, UFC, a massive, massive UFC card coming up this weekend. I will be giving away a play on WagerTalk today in about an hour's time for the UFC event, so looking forward to that. So, guys, make sure you take advantage, and please, if you're with us today watching this video, hit the like button. It really does help us out. All right, Carm, we're going to go over to you for some more picks for Saturday's slate.
Right. So let's first of all make sure that I'm not muted. Second of all, after I pop off the 6 and 16, judging by the look of my notes right now, it's going to take more than 60 seconds. But we'll try and get it done. And then, Andrew, right after that, we want to discuss a couple of the plays, just because I'm not going to go into full description of these ones. So with that said, to our world famous producer, Dan Alexander, anytime you're ready, hit that clock. All right, Dallas and Edmonton. We're going to take over 6.5. Stars scoring and playing better than any team right now, especially in the Western Conference. Oilers, 3 of the last 4 games have gone over the total after some strong defensive play, over 6.5. Boston, the LA Kings, under 5.5. I explained the Bruins 4 losses in their last 5 and only 4 goals in those losses. Kings used that 1-3-1 defense yesterday, 2-1 game in New Jersey, another low-scoring one here. St. Louis and Nashville, Preds. I'm taking the Preds. Draw a line through it. Embarrassing loss for them. Teams usually respond to those ones. This is one where you got to plug your nose, take the plus money, and the Preds, plus 110. Buffalo and Minnesota, 4 wins in a row. Minnesota's streaking, but they got a tough schedule ahead. They need this win as well, too. Minnesota money line, minus 165. Devils Flyers, the Winter Classic at MetLife Stadium. Despite the loss on Thursday, the Devils played really well. I'm going to look for them to beat up on the Flyers. Calgary and Detroit. Unless you believe in resurrections, guys, this Calgary team is going to be dead in a month's time. Let's take the Winks to start with that first nail in the coffin tonight, plus 110. Tomorrow, plus 110. That's your 6 and 60.
Great stuff, Carm. I love those picks, and I like that revenge spot you mentioned for Nashville. Kind of the plug your nose play, because they're, the rapid revenge spot, and that was just not a good game for them. The Blues, man, I'm waiting for them to drop off, but the Blues are playing some good hockey right now. That one might be a sit back and watch game for me, or maybe a small play on the Preds, but the Blues looking good, man. They are playing well, so we'll see if they can snap out of it tomorrow.
They played well against Edmonton. Edmonton had played so well for so long during that 16-game win streak, where they played some really good defense, and that's how they were winning games, that you expect at some point they're going to drop off a little bit. And I think that's why 3 of the last 4 games have gone over the total. They're scoring, but they've also allowing some goals in that one. The one with Calgary, and that's the one I want to discuss, Andrew, is you look at the Calgary Flames right now, and I get it. They lose 6-3 yesterday to San Jose, returning home off that road trip. But this is a team that I feel is going to be a sell team moving forward. And by sell, it doesn't mean just betting against them. It is, I think, before the trade deadline, they are going to move some pieces of this team. And if they can find someone to buy that terrible contract for Markstrom, they will look at, this is the Calgary Flames schedule the next 3 weeks. They play Detroit tomorrow night, Saturday. They then play Winnipeg, the Bruins, the Edmonton Oilers, the LA Kings, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Seattle Kraken. They head down to Florida, play Tampa Bay and Florida, then Carolina, and then finish it off with Colorado and Las Vegas. That's their schedule the next 3 weeks for this team. And a team that's playing as inconsistent as the Calgary Flames, do you think those 12 games that they're going to win more than 4? Like drop a comment in the comment section below when this video is posted later, or in the live chat now. If you think, unless you're an ardent Calgary Flames fan, how can you think they're going to win more than 4 of those 12 games? And those 2 in Florida, where they play Tampa on the 7th, and then they play Florida on the 9th. The trade deadline is the 8th. They could be leaving Florida with some players flying to other cities to meet up with their new teammates. But Andrew, that is as tough. That's a tough as nails schedule. And then the funny thing is that's after the trade deadline, Andrew. And then you look at their schedule after the trade deadline, and it's got to be one of the easiest ones. And then people will be saying, "See, we got rid of our players, and now look how great we're playing." Well, no, you're also playing teams that you should be beating up on.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that there's going to be matchups where you're going to get better prices on the Flames if they trade off some pieces. If they play poorly during that stretch you mentioned, past the trade deadline, we might still be able to find opportunities to bet on them. But moving forward, this Flames team, the only difference between them, the Ottawa Senators, and the Montreal Canadiens is that they're a struggling team, but they're old. They're not young. That's the difference. Like the Oilers, Canucks, Winnipeg Jets, Maple Leafs, they're all playoff bound, and they've got a mixture of youth and vets. But right now, this Flames team, a rather old team, I would say, that needs to trade off some assets, Carm. And by old, obviously, I don't mean really old, but compared to the other teams around them, they need to sell off some assets. And that would be the wise thing to do. I was asked yesterday on a show I was doing about Washington and Pittsburgh, right? Does it affect teams if they try to hold on to their superstars for too long? And when I say hold on to them, I'm not saying trade Sid or trade Ovechkin. I'm more so saying to not have them be a part of a rebuild at all, right? And that's what happens to those teams, is that realistically, I was against this at first, but I actually am starting to believe now that Jake Gensel should get traded. It's unfortunate that he just got injured, so that might not happen. But, you know, because Jake Gensel is still young. He's not really a part of that superstar run that Malkin and Crosby had. And same thing for some of the star players on Washington. They should be trading off guys, but they won't do it because they still want the team to be good with those superstars on the team, you know. And pretty much Washington is completely invested in trying to get Ovechkin that record, which we all know. And I'm going to sit here and say, I think Matthews will break that record anyway, if he keeps going at any pace like he is right now. So we'll see, Carm. But I love watching the trade deadline and seeing which teams make some moves. We both have best bets for tonight on the game going on tonight. What do you have for us?
Andrew, you know, you talk about just the Gunsel thing, and just quickly before we get in, because our producer is going to say, can't believe you guys win 38 minutes for only one game. But with that said, you know, look, the Penguins, Dubas comes in. Yep, he's already said it in my ear. Dubas comes in as GM. You know, they make the signing for Carlson. They have no money for next year. I think their cap hit right now is over $85 million. They have cap space of $20,000. $20,500. That's their cap space. You can't even bring in a buffet for the team for $20,500 right now, Andrew. So who do they get rid of next season in order to keep Gensel? Do they get rid of Malkin? Like, they got to get rid of somebody with a high contract. I don't know who they get rid of. Unfortunately, even with the cap going up a little bit next year, it's just not going to be enough for this team. So they may not be able to re-sign Gensel. With that said, guys, let's get into obviously the best bet of the show. So one play up for tonight in NHL, and you're getting to hear as your show free play. 3 plays up in afternoon soccer, 5-2 this week in tournaments in soccer, and a big weekend for me across both sports, soccer and hockey this weekend, including a 5% play. So maybe grab that 3-day all access and take advantage of it, or the end of February if it's still around as well too. Carolina -140 regulation. They get the job done against a Coyotes team that's struggling right now. A 7-game losing streak, allowed 31 goals. Canes 4 goals should be enough, more than enough, the way they're playing right now, and bounce back off that loss against the Dallas Stars. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Back to you, Andrew, and we love your comments. Please hit the like button and subscribe as well.
Guys, make sure you watch the PuckTime Saturday edition that we'll be recording this afternoon. It'll probably go live either late tonight or early tomorrow morning on the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. I'm going to be passing overall, besides just tweeting out some props for tonight's game. So you guys can probably just get all my plays for tomorrow. I'll have those up early in a package for some great Saturday games. But a prop I really do like for this game would be Brent Burns to get a point, -115. I say it on this show all the time that defensemen get such better prices for them to get on the board. We got a top power play guy. We got a guy milking #1 minutes, and a guy that is not afraid to jump up into the rush. With the style he plays, how often he shoots it, you've got a bottom 10 team in Arizona with shots on goal allowed, shot attempts allowed. They're 16th in the league in goals allowed. And Vejmelka is in net tonight, not Connor Ingram. I believe that's a big difference in goaltending ability there for the two Arizona goaltenders. I'll go with a prop play here with Brent Burns to record a point at -115. Let's go Hurricanes. Let's go Brent Burns, and let's go over with this game. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on Monday right here on PuckTime.